Well, hello, First Baptist family. This is Pastor Brad coming to you from the upper room. Once again, wanting to give you a word of good news and encouragement. In these strange times, I want to encourage you, keep your joy. Keep the joy that the Lord has given to you. In Philippians chapter 4, verse 4, Paul writes, "Rejoice in the Lord always. Again, I say rejoice." He doesn't just say it once. He says it twice. And let me remind you of the root word of that word for joy. It's not like happy. It's not like happiness. To be happy or to have happiness comes more from the circumstances around us. But to have true joy comes from a contentment, comes from knowing the Lord, comes from a contentment no matter what the circumstances are going around us. And the circumstances around us aren't always joy-filled right now. They're not bringing us a lot of happiness, I would say. But in the midst of all that's going on, I pray that you can find a deeper joy and contentment in the Lord. Paul wasn't gathering with his fellow brothers and sisters in the Lord. He was in home confinement. He was separated from all of them, much like all of you are. And yet he still found joy and had enough joy to even say, spread it. Pass it on to others. And so I want to encourage you in that way today, even as we're not gathering here on the First Baptist grounds. Many of you have said, emailed, phone called, said, I just can't wait till we get back to normal and such. Let me remind you, things we have to kind of look at a little bit differently going forward. There'll be a lot of things that we do the same, but there'll be a number of things that will be different, not only in the world around us, like how you shop and how people go to school and businesses and sporting events and other things. They'll do those all differently. We'll have to do a few things differently at the church as well. And so I just want to prepare you for that. I was on a Zoom conference call yesterday with about 250 pastors, and they were just kind of encouraging our senior pastors to help their churches prepare for that day and that time when we do get to come back together and how it might just look a little bit different. And so I've already begun to prepare myself for some of that. Our staff has talked about that. Our diaconate board has talked about that. And I want to prepare all of you as well for that it'll look a little different in many ways. We're reaching hundreds and hundreds of more people. And we want to continue to do that, but we also want to continue to get people back on these grounds. And so we need to retrain and prepare our volunteers to do it differently. Our physical grounds will look different as far as seated in services and probably a little bit more spaced out and those kind of things. Our ministries will look a little bit different. Our offerings and preparing for taking our offerings on Sunday mornings will look different. We'll probably continue to do a lot online, but we won't be passing the offering baskets probably because of the not wanting to touch certain things, and we'll have stations at the door where people can drop that type of thing off. There'll be some things that are all the same. Preaching God's Word, worshiping together, teaching God's Word, encouraging one another. But there'll be a lot that's different as well. But we want to make sure that we will have maximum impact in reaching this community and that God's Word will go forth until the day He comes to take us home. So be in prayer for that. Prepare your hearts for all that. As I said, there'll be a lot that will be the same, but there'll be some that's different. For example, you heard me say on Sunday that we possibly could do some things out in our parking lot, kind of a drive-in service. As we discussed that with our staff and our diaconate board, we decided Sunday morning is probably not the best time to do that. We're going to continue to do the online service and such, but be encouraged because we'd like to do a drive-in style of service and speaking and teaching and even having a prayer time together sometime in May during the week. So I know that Pastor Daniel and our music team kind of searched out how it sounds out there in the parking lot and how all the voices will come across and how we can share and be encouraged in that way. And so we're looking at working towards that, and that will be a fun time in May when we get to see each other still probably through our cars and with the windows up and not being able to get out and walk around and such, but we'll lead you in a time of prayer and encouragement, and we'll be doing some other things on the grounds in exciting ways. So no matter if we're in our cars or we're in the seats, no matter if we're at home or on the grounds worshiping the Lord, I want to encourage you. We need to be people of joy. So let's continue to do that. Even though the circumstances are a little bit different, that's where happiness comes in. That goes up and down. But joy is finding true contentment all the way through, because we know where our joy comes from, and it comes from the Lord. So God bless you, First Baptist. We'll see you Sunday online.